Israel is working hard to prevent another terrorist attack after the Tel Aviv shootings. Well, today, Israeli forces raided factories in the West Bank where homemade automatic weapons were being built.
Concerns are heightened as Muslims continue to celebrate Ramadan. And now the UN has taken the rare step of condemning the Tel Aviv shooting. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the latest.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised international condemnation of the terror attack, but said the Palestinian Authority had yet to respond.
I heard with appreciation the strong condemnation from the leading capitals of the world for these despicable acts of murder, but I did not hear such a condemnation from the Palestinian Authority.
For the first time since the current wave of terror attacks began last fall, the UN Security Council condemned in the strongest terms the Palestinian terror shooting in Tel Aviv that left 4 dead and more than a dozen wounded. The Council said those responsible for these killings should be held accountable. Any acts of terrorism are criminal and unjustifiable, regardless of their motivation, wherever, whenever, and by whomsoever committed. Israeli police were out en masse in Jerusalem during prayers on the Temple Mount on the first Friday of Ramadan. Here at the Damascus Gate, the mood was quiet, as opposed to the celebrations that took place here following the attack. Israel cordoned off the Hebron area village of Yatta and arrested an accomplice to the attack. In this video released by the IDF, soldiers are searching the home of one of the terrorists. Israel also canceled more than 80,000 permits for Palestinians from the West Bank who had hoped to visit holy sites and relatives in Israel during Ramadan. Funerals for the victims took place on Thursday and Friday. But even as Israelis mourned their dead, they showed their resilience, returning to the Sarona market a day after the attack. Some sat in a circle around an Israeli flag, singing songs. Politicians came too.
These were not terrorists in brackets. These were terrorists who came to kill citizens and frighten Israelis and try to break their life cycle. And that's why we are here in Sarona, to show that life continues as usual and we will not give up and we will never be deterred by terror.
Netanyahu visited the site of the attack for a second time. Surrounded by incredible security, Netanyahu met the owners of the restaurant and sipped coffee in the trendy Sarona market.
We will win.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Let me underline this condemnation. You can't get stronger terms for what happened here. These are murderers who killed innocents in cold blood, and they plotted it out. And it was all encouraged by incitement on the West Bank. And we have to understand what is the root cause here. The Palestinians have had an opportunity for their own state for decades, going back to the British Mandate in the 1920s. Every single time it has been offered them, they have refused. The reason? They refuse to recognize Israel's right to exist. Any time that they get any territory or get control of any area, the first thing they do is kill all the Jews. They ethnically cleanse the area. That whole West Bank, when Jordan controlled it right after the 1948 war, Jordan invaded, they controlled it. All the Jews were either killed or expelled. All the synagogues were destroyed. They were desecrated. They were turned into stables. They were turned into latrines. That's how these people think about the Jewish people. And to support this kind of violent anti-Semitism, either through the boycott, divestment, sanction movement, or some kind of let's force Israel to withdraw, what you're asking for is for Jews to be killed. And we need to recognize it for that, and we need to call it by what it is. It's anti-Semitism, and it's the most extreme form. It's vowing to drive Israel into the sea, and we need to stop it. Well, here in the U.S., the presidential race has entered a new phase. Big endorsements are now rolling in for Hillary Clinton. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
That's right, Gordon. Democrats are starting to rally around Hillary Clinton in her bid for the White House, with President Obama formally endorsing her and a key liberal voicing her support as well. But Donald Trump is also gearing up to blast Clinton's ongoing scandals. Charlene Aaron has the story.
This is the video endorsement of President Obama's one-time rival Hillary Clinton, saying she is the most qualified candidate to seek the Oval Office.
I'm with her. I am fired up, and I cannot wait to get out there and campaign for Hillary.
The announcement came shortly after the president met with Clinton's opponent, Bernie Sanders, at the White House, calling the senator from Vermont a patriot. Sanders, who's still in the race for now, says he'll work with Clinton in the near future to defeat Donald Trump. And a big endorsement from the left for Clinton that some liberals hope will win over Sanders supporters. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, often mentioned as a potential running mate for the former Secretary of State.
Hillary Clinton won, and she won because she's a fighter, she's out there, she's tough, and I think this is what we need.
Donald Trump reacted to the president's endorsement of Clinton on Twitter Thursday, saying Obama just endorsed crooked Hillary. He wants 4 more years of Obama, but nobody else does. The Clinton campaign tweeted back, "Delete your account." Even as the big endorsements came in, there was also a reminder of Clinton's lingering scandals. Just minutes after the president endorsed her, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest admitted that the FBI probe into her emails is a criminal investigation. Clinton faces possible prosecution for conducting classified government business through a private email server. Earnest said the president's endorsement of Clinton wouldn't be interpreted inside the FBI as a signal to let her off the hook. The email scandal will also be played out on the big screen. The Hollywood Reporter says a series of films taking aim at the Clintons is set to hit theaters and online. The biggest may come from Dinesh D'Souza of the successful political documentary 2016 Obama's America. His new film follows the money trail at the Clinton Foundation. Meanwhile, the Clinton and Trump campaigns are gearing up for the general election in November, which is just 150 days away. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. A federal appeals court has ruled people do not have the right to carry concealed firearms in public. The move is putting California gun permit applications on hold. The panel of judges ruled people can't get a special permit just to carry concealed guns for personal safety. Their applications instead must show they have good cause for carrying a gun, like being in immediate danger. Gun rights supporters say they're the good guys, pointing out they go through thorough background checks. Well, an earthquake struck the Palm Springs area early Friday and was felt across parts of Southern California. The U.S. Geological Survey says the magnitude 5.2 tremor struck in the early morning hours about 20 miles south of Rancho Mirage. It was reportedly strong enough to wake people out of sleep in San Diego and Los Angeles. Officials say there has been no reports of damage or injuries. Well, it's been a harrowing 26 months since terrorists with Boko Haram kidnapped close to 300 young girls from their school in Nigeria. Only a fraction have escaped. And now, one grieving mother has come forward with new shocking details that a school administrator might have known about the planned attack. Abigail Robertson brings us the latest.
2 years later, questions remain unanswered about the location and fate of the kidnapped Chibok schoolgirls.
We just had gunshots in the night. Everybody was screaming, running helter-skelter, looking for where they will find safety. My husband said, "Let's go." I said, "I'm not going, because my baby is in the school." Then he said, "Nothing will happen to them. The security men are there."
But the next day, they found the school burned to the ground with no sign of the girls. Mary saw her daughter in the first video released by the terrorists, but she's heard nothing since. Last month, one girl managed to escape, reporting that all but 6 of the girls are alive. Half have been forced into marriage.
We want them to put more effort of rescuing the girls.
Now Mary is telling why she suspects local government officials knew about the abduction. According to her and others, the dangerous security situation led the boarding school to close for weeks leading up to the attack. Then, the principal suddenly called the girls back to school to take their finals. Mary says the principal and her 2 daughters were not at the school when Boko Haram struck, and none of the teachers, administration, or their children were taken.
She have a hand in it. She knows everything about it.
Mary also claims the governor showed his support for the terrorists by rewarding the principal after the attack.
To my own understanding, he's their sponsors. If he's not their sponsor, he will fight against terrorism in the Northeast. But he's the one supporting terrorism in the Northeast.
Mary continues to trust God that her daughter will return home and prays foreign governments get involved in the efforts to help locate and rescue the remaining girls. Reporting from Washington, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Thanks, Abby. The Obama administration has decided to give up the United States control over the Internet. The Commerce Department has endorsed a plan that will give Internet oversight to a broader online community that could allow foreign intervention. A Commerce representative says the move will ensure a, quote, vibrant and healthy Internet. But opponents of the move are concerned about censoring by countries like China. They point out the man who used to lead the nonprofit group that'll control Internet addresses is now advising the Chinese government. Gordon, sounds like this move is getting mixed reviews.
Well, the National Religious Broadcasters has come out against it, and I join with them in this. This is something we really need to look carefully at. It can't be a hasty decision. Now, for it, people are saying government shouldn't control the Internet. There currently is a nonprofit group, it's California-based, called ICON that assigns the domain names and the structure of the Internet. But above that is very definitely U.S. government control. The Obama administration is saying, well, let's give all of that into this California nonprofit. The problem with that is that what are other governments going to do, and are they going to be able to put pressure on that nonprofit when it comes to Internet service within their own countries? We're already seeing China has already developed one. They haven't launched it, but it's waiting there to be implemented. So if you're concerned about free speech and how does a nonprofit recognize the First Amendment, if it's under government control, then the First Amendment automatically kicks into everything happening. If it's under a nonprofit, then well, that goes away, and those constitutional protections go away. Of other concern is what happens to the .gov and the .military, MIL, what happens to those domains under this new kind of structure? It needs to be thought through. There's a bill pending in Congress to delay it and defund the government's ability the administration's ability to do this. I think it needs a whole lot more study. How does the Internet remain free? How do we protect free speech on the Internet? It's something we all need to be concerned about.